My dear fellow listeners and viewers, good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of the Dr. Narine Dat Show. For those of you who have seen us in the past, will know that there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on a variety of different ways, and that is on 102.7 CKMS FM Radio Waterloo. You can also listen to us on Rogers Digital Cable for those of you who have the Rogers Digital box, and of course, we are also live streaming our interview, so we ask you to kindly take the opportunity to share our page. The whole idea of the Dr. Narine Dat Show is to create a safe space for positive energy and mutual respect. Tonight, our guest is Pandit Dev, who we've invited so that we can talk about important topics, things that matter to us the most as we speak, so to speak. So Pandit Dev, welcome to the show. How are you doing this evening?
Thank you very much, my brother. Namaste, everyone. Jai Maharaji. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on this program once again.
All right. So you're no stranger to us. We've had you on our old show, and time goes by so fast that it seems like we've had you here yesterday, but that's not the case. It's been quite a few years. So what we'll do, people know the draw. You are not competing with anybody here in terms of time. So take a couple of minutes, introduce yourself a little bit, let us know a little bit about you, just a brief introduction, because I will be asking you specific questions about you. And then, moving forward, I do have, more specific question in terms of learning for viewers and listeners. So take it away and introduce yourself to us, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. So for one and all, as my brother said, that it's not the first time I've joined this show. It's been a while, and as I reintroduce myself on this new platform as well, my name is Dave Ramrattan, and I reside in Connecticut, USA. I'm a family person, wife and kids, and other than being a pandit, I'm also employed or working in the field of mental health, dealing with social issues every day as the time goes by. Along with that, I'm also a disciple of Sadhguru Sarasri Ashutoshi Maharaj, and His Holiness Ashu Baba is an epoch-making personality. And why am I saying this? He is a perfect spiritual master on the world stage who has revealed the eternal science of Brahman. And Sadhguru Sarasri Ashutoshi Maharaj, he is the founder and head of Divya Jyoti Jagrati Sansthan, Divine Light Awakening Mission, where one is being blessed with that eternal knowledge of Brahman, where they're able to connect with that divine Lord from within themselves. So along with this, my dear friends, in a nutshell, I'm a disciple of him. Again, Sarasri Ashutoshi Maharaj, founder and head of Divya Jyoti Jagrati Sansthan.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction. Very much appreciated. So before I get into specific question in terms of the learning aspect of the show, if it's okay with you, take me back to your earlier years, going back, growing in Ghana as a young individual. What was life like for you in terms of attending school, going to the temple, living in your neighborhood and so forth? Take it away and respond accordingly.
As a kid, I grew up in a remote village of Soesdijk. Many people will know Soesdijk, 5 minutes from the international airport in Guyana, in a little place we call Farm Track Madwini. And as a kid growing up, all the basic necessities of life, we were lacking in it at that time. And the name Farm Track, how that place got that name, was that mostly farming was being done in the particular area. And it was just a fine track that even when it rains, that it was all mud. I remember as a kid going to school, from primary school, nursery to primary to secondary. We used to make our way out to the school, we used to hold our sneakers, our boots in our hands, and wade through the mud. And opposite the street, opposite the track, there was a police outpost that is still there, Madwini outpost. And there was a standpipe that is there. And we always go there to wash our feet, to put our boots on to go to school. And I recall vividly that growing up, even as young as I may be, many will say that, we probably did not face the hardship growing up in Guyana. But I remember that it was in the year 2009, where we got electricity for the very first time, in 2009. So throughout our initial life, throughout school life, we studied, we went to school without any of the necessities, including electricity. We studied with lamp. And for those who know, the kerosene lamp and all these things. But dating back, prior to that, it was around 2001, where growing up in the village, we all cut trees and laid it across the track. And that's when we kind of built something to walk on when it rained. So growing up in Susdak, even though it was just 5 minutes from the international airport, it was very tough because 2001 we did that. 2007 was around the first time we get potable water, because we grew up drinking, cooking, washing, everything with black water, with the creek water. All right? But through it all, it taught us the lessons of life, to value everything, because as we know, that whoever fetched the water know the value of every drop. All right? And through all of this, it never dissuaded us from being who we were. Went to school like that, looking at television. We had a black and white television that used battery. The only time we get a look at the movie was on Saturday night. And when you finish looking at one movie, the battery is dead. Right? And we were the only home in the entire track at that time that had a television. Everybody was glued to the radio. And through it all, we were able to balance going to school. We were able to balance going to temple, because I remember as a young man, when I was about to write at that common entrance, it was, just prior to that, we started going to Mandir, which was just on the main road. And starting out there, it was just the week before common entrance that I actually sang my first bhajan in Mandir. This little boy, little me, never knew, going to Mandirs and all these things. But the village pandit at that time came home by us once and performed puja. And he said to our parents that, encourage them, take them out to Mandir. And that was how Mandir was also birthed in our life, even though at home we used to pray.
Well, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to respond to my question. And now you can understand why I ask these kinds of questions. I think it's important because even though you shared, your experience growing up in Guyana, I think it also is sending a message to folks as we speak, the younger folks in particular, that life is not as bad as they say it is, right? Because I was speaking with one of my friends just before we connected here, and he just visited Guyana and so forth. So he shared with me very briefly some of the changes. I mean, it is not comparable to places like the United States and Canada and so forth, but obviously, they have better roads and things of that sort, which is kind of nice to know. But it kind of go back to show that 20 years ago, it was very different, right? Based on what you've shared.
and even to add to that, and thankfully, it has only been probably about 3 years now that we actually got a bitumen road. After people have been living in that particular area since in the 40s, my grandparents, even the older individuals living in that area, and only about 3 years back was when they get bitumen road after so many years.
Yeah. So thank you again for that. A few folks are saying that those were the sweetest days and so forth. I guess what they're saying in their own way is that they really made it work for them, right? And so that is that, because it's not only you who have had that experience. And that's one of the things I used to share with my kids, and especially my older one. I said to her, we didn't had all of the things that you have at hand right now, and we never thought of it because we just utilize and maximize what we had at hand and make the most out of it, right? So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that. And so when you were in high school and things of that sort, what was it like for you in terms of, your academic journey? Did you enjoy your journey at all? Were you one of those who really enjoy going to school, or was it an issue for you? And keeping in mind that these are just questions I'm asking you, that
Yeah.
you have no obligation to respond to them, but it's good to know, because I've had people came on here where they shared where school was never their thing and all of that, but today they still move on to do great things in life, right? So anything you want to share along that line will be awesome.
School life, academic life was a beautiful journey. As we all know, boys will be boys, mischievous
Mhm.
growing up in Guyana. It will always be that. And I remember primary school days, it was a group of us living where we were at. All the cousins and everybody grew up together. We went to the same primary school. And eventually, from primary school, I was one of the only cousin out of four of us that actually went on to secondary school at that sitting of common entrance. Uh, I went to Charlestown Secondary, that's in Georgetown.
Mhm.
I remember going to Charlestown Secondary, and it was a double session because Charlestown was in a deplorable state at that time. And after I completed Form 1, I was enjoying the school every time because it was a half day school and not an entire day. And then my father was encouraged by one of the teachers that, you know what, if you want him to excel, you need to take him out of this school. This is not the school for him. So he took me out of Charleston, that's in Georgetown, and he brought me to Covent Garden on the
Mhm.
East Bank. And at that time, Covent Garden School was like the QC on the East Bank. Because anybody talk about Covent Garden Secondary, it was like because Covent Garden was the eighth graded secondary school at that time. My secondary journey was fruitful, was beautiful. It was a mixture of everything, right? Gaining friends. And
Mhm.
thankfully, a day like today, even though we've graduated over 2 decades back from secondary school, the
Mhm.
same group of us are still closely connected.
Mhm.
From our classroom, we're still closely connected because I remember I always wanted to be an accountant.
Mhm.
But somehow or the other, the
Mhm.
teachers saw something else different in me, and they're like, nope, they placed me in the science stream. The first term in science, Form 4, it was a battle for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then eventually I had to gravitate to it, and I learned and I grew from there. Uh, and our science class at that time had probably, I think, it was 7 students. And we built that bond that even a day like today, sometimes you see today the friendships are falling apart. It's not the same.
Yeah.
But thankfully, after 2 decades, we have that same close connection with each other. We may not hear from each other every day, but we're always supportive of each other's growth, their happiness. In times of sadness, we're there to support each other. And so it taught me life lessons of how to build relationship, how to nurture relationship, how to gain an academic, and how to have a more balanced life. And that's one of the things even today, as I went on to higher level of studies as well. Um, from academics, I went into the teaching profession, but prior to teaching, I was a laboratory technician with Topco, and then I moved on to being a chemist with IPA, all right, with Clearwater. So I'm a jack of all trades. There's so many caps on this head that I wear from time to time. And I even taught for 10 years at CSEC level, all right,
Excellent. Yeah.
where biology was my baby subject and still is.
Mhm.
And there's so many students who would have passed through my hands at that level that even they like today, I've built that relationship with those students that even if they're about to go for an interview, only a few weeks ago, one of them would have graduated with his bachelor's in public health in Guyana. And I was one of the first person that he sent all the pictures to and messages and thanking me for the time that I've spent on, on his journey. And also these are the things that kind of make us, the well-rounded individual, but not without me saying that, I haven't scratched the match and get burnt on my fingers. All right. But those are all life experiences
Absolutely.
that makes us better and makes us, who we are today.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that story with us. And today, individual who reach out to you, that's a perfect example to show gratitude. It's really great. And believe it or not, I reached out to one of my teacher. He's older now, of course, because this is like long story I'm talking about. I did reach out to him because I wanted to have some sort of satisfaction, and I said to him, look, I want to thank you, that you really mold us well, and I kind of share with him personally because we kind of grew up, in the same village and so forth. I said to him, I can still remember certain things, that you used to say to us that, nobody can take away education from you and all of that. So I shared some of my stories and said, look, I'm doing okay. And he said to me, Narine, not to worry, we see all the things that you're doing and so forth. But when I did that and I did it verbally directly to him, I honestly it gives me a sense of satisfaction because, even though, a lot of things we do on our own and so forth, there are people that help us along the way and not
Yes.
even realizing it, right? So that's awesome. Good story. And I want you to know as well that in between, I will be reading some of the comments that people are sharing because not everybody might read from top to bottom everything. And I think it's nice to kind of really have that a little bit of engagement, a little bit of an engagement as well too, just so you know, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so, folks, for those of you who've just tuned in, we are joined by a very, brilliant, individual, Panadev. We've known each other for, a few years now. And I believe that, we are connected for a reason. We share a lot of stuff in common and whatnot. And so he's here today because we want to kind of, pick his brain in terms of getting him to respond to some of the questions that I have, we have. And it's going to be related to religion. As you know, when he was introducing himself, he introduced himself saying that he's a pandit and whatnot. And even though he's a pandit, do know that we are aware that there are more than one religion. And so he's just going to give broad response based on the questions that I'm asking him. His beliefs and my beliefs might be very different than yours, and that's totally fine. Just remind yourself that this is a safe space for positive energy. What that means is, 6 months from now, 2 months from now, we can have somebody else who represent a different kind of religion and things of that sort. But just today, we will kind of get him to respond as to how he view, what religion is, all of that. What is it we can do as individuals to kind of use, those kinds of pieces to really be better individual, and things of that nature. So on that note, Panadev, in your own views, I mean, you've been, in this pandit for quite a few years and whatnot. You've done it in Ghana. You came to the States. You've kind of continued along that line. In your view of things, based on your knowledge and scriptures and all of that, how would you, to the best of your ability, describe religion to us?
In answering your question, and I'm going to be very open here. And one of the things that many times I said this very openly, a lot of times we read the definition that other individuals or writers have given, right? They've given their definition. And many of times we try to pattern. Based on their definition. But one of the things that I've always said to individuals, always remember, you're the character of your own life, and you are the one who will be writing your own definition. All right? So in religion in itself, it's broad-based, all right? But in common terms, it means to unite.
Mhm.
All right? If we can unite with each other, but in making it simpler, Swami Vivekananda, this is one of the things that I enjoy as a writer from him. He says, religion is self-realization. All right? Religion is self-realization. And unless and until we realize who we are, we will not be practicing religiously to work upon our own selves to be better than what we are or what we were a minute ago. So from the time we realize who we are, then we will ensure that at every given moment is like a potter man who continuously work, trying to make his shapes better. We will be like that potter man trying to make this life evolve and evolve and evolve to become better than what we were even a minute ago. So religion in itself is self-realization. Realize who you are and practice religiously whatever you practice. And this is again what I always say to people. We all may worship differently, but the goal is to unite, to become one with God. It's not different to become one with God. And for us to become one with God, then we need to become one with ourselves. Because if we do not become one with ourselves, then we are living a life of duality. Very simple.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Very much appreciated. And I like the spin you put to that as well, too. So that is something for folks to start to think of, right? Definitely. Because at the end of the day, if people don't know who they are, that can be hard, that can be a very hard place to be. Right? Because you don't know what direction to take, and not necessarily as it relates to religion, but in life as a whole, right?
Yeah.
And on that note, in your view of things, based on your knowledge and based on what you've said, how can religion as a whole kind of shape us as human beings so that we can be the best version of ourselves, so that we can be champion in society? Right? Because as you would know, we live in a very different era, right? Very
Yeah.
different era. If people pay attention and pay attention to the world news and pay attention as to what's happening, we live in a very different era. And so sometimes talking about these things is important because maybe that's the only hope we have, you know? So my question to you, how can we use religion, or how can religion as a whole help human beings, you and I, people, so that they can, be the best version of themselves and really maximize the opportunity and purpose of being a human being for that matter?
I love this question. And why I do love this question, because it takes many, many manifolds. And for instance, now, is that how can religion shape us? And this is something that I think, and I strongly are seeing happening, is that we must understand that we must worship out of love and not out of fear. Right? We must worship out of love and not out of fear. And why am I saying this? Religion should not be an enforcer to say to us that if we do, we go to heaven, and if we don't, we go to hell. Right? Religion should not be that. Religion should be that every day as a human being, that we should try to be the best version of who we can be. Each and every one of us, and I'm going to throw this out. Each and every one of us, no human being is perfect. Each and every one of us has a limitation somewhere along the line. All right? Religion now should be able to cushion individuals because it is a practice. It is not only a doctrine to read rules and regulations and what has to be done without enforcing and without practicing what those rules and regulations are. But at the same time, religion should be used as a as, let's say, as a bed to absorb an individual when they fall, to be there to cushion that fall so that they should not hurt themselves. And I think this is where the biggest problem is today. What are we doing in religion? Religion is what we practice, all right? And if we practice what is right, because what may be right for me may not be right for you, all right? What may be right for you may not be right for me. And this is where the common ground is that what can we do together to make the lives of each and every individual better, because we've learned that everybody has or possess special talents. So religion should be used as that cushion, as that guide to create a balance in someone's life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. Very much appreciated. So my dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who have just tuned in, I just want to remind you that you're watching and listening to Dr. Narine Dat Show. The whole idea of this show is to create a safe space for positive energy and mutual respect. Keep in mind, there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can also listen to us on Rogers digital cable, for those of you who have the Rogers digital box. And of course, we're also live streaming our interview here, so we hope that you take the opportunity to share a page so folks can get to the opportunity to learn a thing or two from our guests here. Let me quickly say hello to a few people, Pandit Dev, and we'll kind of continue on. How about that? So that way you can kind of draw your breath a little bit. Or quench your thirst or something along that line. Let me quickly say hello to Gitanjali. That's the first name that comes up here as I'm looking. I wouldn't be able to see everybody, but do know that we appreciate all of you. I want to give a special hello to Pandit Dev Chetram, a very, very talented Pandit. I've learned from him. I was the assistant Pandit to him, by the way, very knowledgeable man. So thank you so much for taking a sneak peek. We've had him on our old show as well too, known him for many, many years. Mohani, thank you so much, a former villager of mine. Patricia, Ken Ramprasad, John from Queens, and so forth. John from Queens and so forth. Those are my regular folks who support our initiative, all of these types of things. But I'm not able to see all the names. That's because, depends where I'm looking and what screen I'm looking at. But do know we appreciate all of you. So I want to get back to what you've just said. You've responded so richly to what I've said to you. So I want to dissect it a little bit, or I want to take it a little bit further here. And in order for us to do that, I want to ask you this question. In your view of things, in your opinion, do you think that religion itself can be of any sort of assistance to help at least some of the challenges that the world faces as we speak? Because we have a lot of problems in this world, and sometimes we don't know where to turn and who to turn to, all of that. I've seen lots of challenges based on my own, profession and all of these types of things, right? And people who know who they are, people who, believe in higher power and so forth, maybe they see things a little bit different. But generally speaking, in terms of, a change in the system and so forth, do you think religion can help to solve anything at all in terms of the bigger picture, in terms, and the problems in society, so to speak?
It surely can. And why am I saying this again? Is that can religion, and I'm going to rephrase the question too, can religion help with all these problems that we have in our society today? These problems that we have, there is a saying that problems are problems, but it becomes a bigger problem where we magnify the problem, right? Where we magnify the problem, because it can be very subtle, very small, but it's when we magnify it and we start giving it names and we start stating that it is very difficult to overcome, that is when problems become very mountainous. Religion, on the other hand, how can it help? other than teaching from the religious scriptures only, today, and it is not a coincidence that we're having this program on such a day, being Gita Jayanti, all right, such an auspicious day. It is the day where Lord Sri Krishna, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, spoke for the very first time. Because for those who follow the Bhagavad Gita, it is a little text that is being taught across the globe today. In schools, anywhere you go, it's being taught. Because in the entire first chapter, Arjuna was complaining about all the problems of life, about all the problems. But then in the second chapter, the Lord started giving the antidote of how we can curb these problems. Religion has the answers. Religion has the answers. But my biggest issue is, are the presenters of the religion, fully equipped to balance and find the solution to the problems that people faces? Because today we have many societal problems. We were only looking at it a few days back. Right here in the United States, 48% of the marriages ends in divorce. All right? And that number is growing exponentially.
Not too bad. I'm not cutting you. Not too bad. Here in Canada, it's over 50%. But continue on.
Right? So religion in itself is that we can use religion now. Again, I'm just using the word. I'm not saying that we can use the religion in that way, in that sense. But religion can be used in such a way that it could bring both parties together, find what the problems are, and also the solutions. All right? And also the solutions. Not only marriages. Society has been broken down completely. All right? Like you said, we're living in different times. But I'm going to go one step away from that and may not say different time, but the people has changed considerably. Because the older folks will always remember that if there's an issue, and you were always told that it takes a village to grow a child, right? Not only the home. Today, we're seeing a great disparity of what happened or what used to take place 20 years ago. All right? Today, not even the neighbors can say to your child that you're being rude. All right? Religion brings forth a balance between what we should do and what we shouldn't do. Religion helps us to realize who we are and what we can become. All right? Religion helps us to understand that life has a duality, that today we can be happy and tomorrow there might be unhappiness. All right? Religion makes us aware that our surrounding, that we're here only for a short period of time, and then after this we are gone. Religion makes us understand that whatever we can do, all of us possess the same God. All of us possess the same God from within us. And if we can connect to that God from within, then we are truly following what religion is. So through all of these things, religion in itself can provide great emotional, social, and it can even sometimes use to teach you how to be physically, in place as well, because in the temple, it will teach you how to eat correctly. All right? It can teach you what to eat, what not to eat. It can teach you how many times to eat or what you should eat or what you shouldn't eat. All right? So all of these things, and that is why the places of worship are always considered an institution to learning. Not only religiously, and that's one of the things I advocate for, not only religiously, but it should be able to teach from the young ones to the old ones how to make them lives better every single day.
Excellent. Good point there, Pandit Dave. Lots of good information you're giving there, which is great. So along that line, first of all, I'm aware that maintaining a temple, all of these things can be very challenging, right? Because it's a lot. It's in a sense, it's a lot of work. You need dedicated people, motivated people. Growing up as a child, I've always been engaged in terms of being a regular mandir goer, all of these types of things. So I understand it. I kind of get it. You mentioned about a lot of change over the years. I mentioned that as well too. Obviously, people change as well too for a variety of different reasons. You and I, and all of us, will experience all of these things for sure. These are all normal things. At the end of the day, we do have temples, mandirs and all that are functioning. People are going and so forth. So my question to you is, how can a place of worship, right? How can a place of worship make positive impact to folks who are dedicating themselves. I'm using that term for the sake of conversation to kind of attend, because keep in mind, you may have folks who always wanted to attend a temple because they want to feel a sense of belonging, they want to feel a sense of connecting with people, all of these types of things. And when they go to these places, they're looking for a safe space, right? It might not what we are hoping for or expecting in terms of the people who are managing, the temple, or in terms of, the expectation of the pandit and so forth. It could be just somebody looking for a safe space, and they found the temple, for example. How can we, use those kind of space to make impactful, basically what I'm saying to you, how can we make it, have positive impact to the folks who are attending temples and so forth?
One thing that I've said to congregation before, and it's something that I will always promote, is that we can be sitting on the podium preaching to the masses, but we need to understand that each and every individual that sits in there has or is undergoing some sort of, it could be emotional issues, mental trials, physical, they can even lose someone. And in answering this question, and I can give you a typical example that only happened a few months back. I was in a temple and I started singing a bhajan, and I saw this individual broke down, and the tears was so much that it was very difficult to be controlled. I looked at her. I completed the program, and I asked to talk to her out of the public domain. And lo and behold, she was going through so much emotionally that the individual had lost two very close persons to herself within the span of 1 week.
Lost in terms of passing away?
Passing away.
Okay. I'm just asking because people
Right?
lose people in different ways these days.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah,
Right?
go ahead.
That she has lost, two very close individuals to her within the span of 1 week. And when she heard the bhajan being sung, it reopened the wound that has never been closed because it's very fresh. I had a talk with her after, and I went through some therapeutic strategies with her. And it's something I try to say to people, that every individual behind their smile, and I'm generalizing here.
Yeah,
there can be persons who are perfect and who have no issues. But there are many of our people, and age is not included. It can be anybody.
Absolutely.
There are many of our people behind their smile, they are drowning. They are drowning in some sort of problem. All right? They need for themselves that when they come to places of worship, including mandirs, including these temples, that they must be able to sit in such a space that if they can cry their heart out, seeking the comfort from the divine, and not only the divine, but there can be people within our congregation that can give them that shoulder to lean on as they're going through these struggles of their life. Then the places of worship will be much more effective than us just coming and sit there, preach, and we leave. We need to understand that, again, to bring the humanity out of human being is that we need to understand that we must be able to be compassionate and to give our shoulder for others to lean on. Because again, our people seek a safe space, not a space that when they cry, we ask them why they're crying. We don't want to be that person that instead of being supportive, we're scaring them away because that individual may feel that, you know what, now if I cannot pray in peace and be expressive, right? Because many times it's like if our parents, we love our parents dearly. In front of our parents, we will have all the emotions. We will show everything to our parents, right? Similarly, when you go to places of worship, people must feel that connection and they must be able to allow themselves to be fully taken over by devotion so that when they leave after that period of time, there is a yearning for them to come back because they know that little by little, the moment that they've spent there, it helps them to now start getting a bit stronger and facing the challenges that they are encountering at that moment.
All right, that's a handful there, and I have to agree with what you're saying. And so the reality is everybody, and I mean everybody, go through some sort of challenge at different times in their lives, right? So people might have a few good years, and all of a sudden, something went wrong, and then they're facing with that, and sometimes the way it works, or it seems to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes everything seems to be happening all at once and things of that sort. And that's one reason I always encourage folks to hang on really, really tight there because nothing, stays permanent, right? And so even the darkest days and darkest times, and I'm kind of repeating what you're saying in a different way because I'm aware as well that folks are watching and listening or will be watching and listening that are probably going through some challenging time in their life, right? So I just have to let folks know that, it won't last forever because sometimes when you are in it, it doesn't feels right? It feels as if it will never go away and all these kinds of things. So thank you for that. And I don't want to put you under pressure here. But as I was mentioning earlier, it's hard and difficult, for folks who are, taking their responsibility, to manage temples, run temples and things of that sort. Not an easy thing. It doesn't always done right as well too. I think that's a whole different thing. But in terms of religion itself and so forth, I have my own view on it. I'm sure you do too, and that's one reason why I'm asking you how difficult it is for folks, to live a religious life. I would think that it's extremely difficult depending how deep you want to go with it. So let me put it that way. Because for me, if people, let's say you have people who don't believe in any religion at all, they don't believe in any sort of higher power, they don't believe in any God and so forth, right? That's going to be a hard place to start if now they're trying to kind of believe in something and all of that. So we are all at different places in our life. Personally, for me, I do believe in a higher power and so forth, but I also think that it is kind of extremely difficult to live a religious life, because nobody's perfect. As you mentioned earlier, it can be hard because society also have certain expectation of us, especially when you are a public figure. If you're a pandit, for example, there will be certain expectation. I will give you a good example. This coming Saturday, I will be hosting an event where they're raising money for mental health. So I will be doing the MC. I'm not the one producing the event or the show or anything. So folks have invited me to do it, and I'm gonna go there. That environment, in that environment, they'll be serving liquor, rum, all of that. They'll have meat and all of that. I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. I don't drink and things of that sort. But I have a good way to separate my personal values from my professional values. I don't judge people because I'm not in people's shoes, kind of thing. But I want to get back to the question though. How is it? How difficult or easy it is for folks to live a religious life? I want to hear your spin on it or your take on it.
Every individual have a different take on, on that aspect of it. Is it difficult to live a religious life, or is it not difficult too? Because every moment that you live you're always telling yourself that you're being judged by the words that you utter, that you talk, from the actions you perform, to everything that you do, you're being judged by society. Only 2 nights back, we had a program on Zoom as well, and the narrator said that we always listen of someone's character, all right? Your character is not what you show to the public, but your character is when you're by yourself and you decipher what is right from what is not right. That is when you're testing what your character really is. For instance, we can put on all this fancy clothing and go to the places of worship, but behind the scene, it's a different individual.
Absolutely.
All right? So that character in itself should be in the public domain as well as in the private domain. Because even though life is made up of duality, that spark, that divinity, that light is present within each and every one of us. All right? We all know, we all are not all may know, not all may believe, but that divine is within each and every one of us. How do we live a religious life? A religious life is about every day we try to not make only ourselves better, but every individual that we come into contact with should be able to share within that positive energy that we ourselves are giving off. So, in a nutshell, living a religious life is not difficult because, one, you realize who you are and you accept you for who you are, because each and every one of us has flaws, each and every one of us has limitation, and unless and until we accept that we have limitation, then we're living away from who we actually is. All right? Each and every one of us. Once we're able to know who we are, secondly, we will try to make ourselves better. By making ourselves better, we will try to make our families better. From the family, then from the family, once this family start growing and being better, they can build society to be better. With society being better, it can build the nation to be better. All right? So it all starts with us who wants to live a religious life. So again, religion should be, if we accept that, feeding the lesser, lives out there as our religion. And if we do that every day by satiating the hunger of the lesser lives out there, by lesser feeding the animals, and every day we do that, we encourage those that we connect to do it as well, then that's a good and selfless duty we're performing. All right? So overall, it can be a spin-off. So, but if you want to live a life in a duality now, that in the public I'm this and in private I am somebody else, then no matter, back home, no matter how much paint you rub on the mask, right, it will see through eventually.
There you go. Yeah,
That
absolutely, for sure.
it will see through. So you have to draw that line. You have to draw the line. Which one should I follow? Should I follow living this life, or should I not follow it? But you cannot want to do both at the same time.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Makes a lot of sense to me. On that note, though, obviously, as you mentioned, as we all know it, nobody's perfect. We all have flaws. People do go through, different challenges in life, and that's a reality. So what that means is they may not be able to live their best life, right? For a variety of different reasons, right? Because we all are different places and so forth. What that means is we can get to where we need to be, but that can take some work and some assistance and so forth. How can, a place of worship, not that the place of worship has all the responsibilities or anything of that sort, but generally speaking, how can, the place of worship, or even a spiritual leader, a person like yourself and so forth, help people to get that point, or help people to kind of even understand it the way you just did, where you really have to be true to yourself, really, right? Because once you're true to yourself, it is irrelevant who's watching, so to speak. Let me put it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you'll be the same version of you regardless. So in what ways, I guess the question is, in what ways can a place of worship and leaders and so forth help people in general? Because people do need that guidance. Like, there's no question about that.
Places of worship should not be dormant as it is today, that people are coming to you all the time. We've reached a stage that you need to go to the people. All right? You need to go to the people. And by going to the people doesn't mean that you're going out there in the public domain only to preach religion. All right? Within our congregation, there are many individuals who are specialized in different fields and expertise. All right? For instance, yourself, myself, we're in mental health. Now, for instance, we know mental health has a big stigma to it, especially back home in Guyana and so on. Right? Only in these countries, you know that mental health is real. All right? The temple can be such an enforcer now to go out holding programs in public spaces, all right? Yes, with approval, but go out there and bring mental health awareness to people. Bring that, okay, these are what mental health issues looks like. This is what you can do. Suicide. We see suicide is a big problem amongst our people.
Yep.
The mandirs, the places of worship, can go out into the community and bring suicidal awareness to people. All right? That let them understand that there's more to life than taking their own life. Don't only tell them that when you're drunk, then this is the only way out of it. No. Teach them how they can overcome that problem that they're going through at that moment. Child abuse, domestic violence, all of these are problems that, yes, is there for, we're saying the psychologists and the mental health therapists and everybody. But the mandir, the places of worship, can also play a big role in teaching. Even if you have to bring somebody, and I guarantee you this, my brother, if a mandir reaches out to you to just host a mental awareness program in Canada, in the US, I guarantee you that you will make yourself readily available for that, because this is your feeling. You want people to be open, to understand that it's a big problem. So the mandirs, the places of worship, can be an enforcer in this field as well, not only religiously, but to meet people and let people understand and bring awareness to them. Problems are here, there are solutions to them. All right? But let us find the right channel where those problems can go through, and the correct individual who can guide you along that path to find the solution to your problem.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And speaking of that, my birthday is this coming Tuesday, so my wife is planning, something on the following Saturday and so forth. But I had already given my commitment to host, like I said, to MC at this mental health awareness fundraising event on Saturday. And I gave them my word months ago. And I said to my wife, I cannot do this, that I give my word, I have to stick with that, So we're doing the celebration the following week. It would have not sit well with me, have I say, hey, long the wife has something going on. I don't operate from that lens. But I like what you're saying, that if you reach out to the right channel, reach out to the right people, the people that, that share the same kind of values and so forth, you'll be amazed to know of the difference it can make, which is very much needed, to tell you the truth, because none of us know it all. Yes, I may have my own niche of what I know, like, and enjoy doing and things of that sort. Same thing for you and everybody else. And at the end of the day, I know it can be hard to work together and so forth, because that's just a natural, normal thing. But we, at the end of the day, like, we can achieve more working together for a common goal. And if people do the things for the right reason, it's easy to do. But if I go in there because I'm looking for some sort of spotlight and recognition, then that becomes a problem, right? I'm hoping that we can continue these kinds of conversation, because you brought up such of a richness here in terms of your response, which I very much appreciate. So thank you for that, Pandev. I'm aware that today is, Gita Jayanti and whatnot. Is there I'm not asking you to quote anything from the Gita, but is there any general message you have along that line? For me personally, I do make the Bhagavad Gita visible, so I don't have it in the drawer.
Yeah.
It's right at my altar shelf there. And the way I read the Bhagavad Gita, I've read it from top to bottom. The way I do it, I honestly randomly open any page, and it does not matter. And this is my own experience I'm sharing here. It does not matter, what I'm reading in terms of what chapter and whatnot. There is always something, to reflect on and so forth. That's the beautiful thing I kind of love about the Bhagavad Gita. It's very rich and very, it can really get you thinking, and it also keep you grounded. That's one thing I find. It keeps you grounded. It reminds you about the fact, what you mentioned earlier. None of us come here forever, right? At some point, we will have to go, and so forth. And I think it's so important for us to remind ourselves of those things, because when we don't, then the greed and all that kind of takes over, right? Because as human beings, those kind of things sometimes just comes naturally. So if you don't stay grounded, like, you can be all over the place, right? So any general message you have, and not to put you in the spot here, but generally speaking, any general message you have that you want to say as it relates to, Gita Jayanti and so forth, whether that be remind folks the importance of just consider reading it if you have one at hand. And if you don't have one at hand, like the Gita, for example, this is an example, maybe consider having one, for example.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Anything you want to add along that, I think will be nice. I think it's worth it, yeah.
So as I said earlier, today being Gita Jayanti, and philosophically, the Gita brought forth many, many messages to us. Today, being birthed that the Bhagavad Gita, because it's the day when the Lord, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, first spoke in the Gita. And in speaking, he gave the antidote to what the solutions are to the problems of life. And recapping a little like what I would have said earlier, is that many of times we magnify our problems. Similarly, if we all consider ourselves Arjuna, who is the main character in the Bhagavad Gita, we ourselves have many, many problems. All right? We may not see what the problems are, because sometimes we fail to accept them in our life. If we accept that we are all Arjunas, then at the same time we will know that there are problems, and within the Gita, there are the solutions to the problems. Every day that we read, and the Bhagavad Gita is such a, simple, but yet profound text.
Yeah.
Right? And every time you read a page from that, it will give you a different message. Right? The way you interpret it. But eventually, the main message of the Gita is for you to realize the divine within yourself and connect to that higher power. So if we understand and we want to read to understand, right, try, and I'm saying to every individual, whoever reads the Gita, do not only read it from an intellectual perspective. Read it, assimilate it, and try to live it. And if we all can live accordingly, then we will not magnify our problems anymore, but we will ensure that we find the solution for our problems, thus helping others to find their solutions as well.
Excellent. Absolutely. Very well said. Very much appreciated. So thank you so much for this, Pandit Dave. Do know I appreciate you, appreciate your time and so forth. I'm done with all my specific question that I had for you. But apart from your professional role in terms of, your day job, let me put it that way, in terms of your Panditai piece as well too, when you're not doing any of that, what is it that you do with your free time? I know that's a tricky question because these days nobody has much free time. I don't, I'll tell you that
much. My free time, as per se, is that I love being at home with my wife and kid.
Yeah.
Once I'm home, once there's nothing planned for the day, for instance, today, all day, we're home. Yes, we did some cooking, etc. But I had some people stopping by me this afternoon, and they're like, it's Sunday in your home. I'm like, I don't think there's anybody who loves their home as much as I do. If I can be home, I will not come out. I will just be home just to spend that time with my family. Unless and until I have something that I have to get done, that is when I will be on the go. But other than that, I prefer to be home.
No, I totally hear you. There's a lot of times you hear people say this, nothing like home. Like for us, for example, obviously I have kids and so forth. So especially in summertime, we'll go a lot of different places. We'll kind of spend a couple nights at, hotels and try to make it special for the kids and so forth. Beautiful places I'm talking about, but honestly, when you come home, you realize it's not like home.
No, indeed, especially the field that we work, right? When I come out of the office in the afternoon, I just want to get home because that's my place of peace. That's my sanctuary. So the faster I can get home, I can spend that time with my family, bonding, because again, like I've said, our family dynamic has changed so much that families are falling apart. All right? We need to take the initiative and move with it now. We need to show, not only show, but we need to live the life accordingly so that others can see that we must value. We must place a value on the people that we have amongst us. Right? We must do that because, yes, we're all busy, and at times, because of my profession, it takes me away from home for days, away from my family. And my daughter, for instance, if I'm away, one day pass, she's gonna be good. 2 days pass, and she don't see that door opening and coming in. She will fall sick until I get home. All right. So at the same time, it's like, because that's a connection that we've built with each other. So I'm saying this and saying it to everybody: value your family. Value your family. It's important.
Absolutely, for sure. And the people in your circle as well too, not necessarily the family per se, the folks, even former colleagues and friends. Like
Yep.
I spoke with a friend of mine earlier today, um, from the States and so forth. We all, as you mentioned earlier, we don't necessarily talk every day per se, but it's nice to
Yep.
stay connected. But those time, it's a special kind of time when you're
Mm-hmm.
connecting, right? A lot has changed, as you mentioned. Speaking of change, we live in a different era, that I can tell you, because to share a quick story here. I end up seeing, somebody who I've known for a while, twice within, I don't know, I believe like a 3 year period, but we connected at a funeral home actually.
Mm.
So we both went to a funeral home, and then interesting enough, he recognized that we are seeing each other here, and he said to me, "Oh my goodness, Narain, we're seeing each other for the second time at a funeral home." So the point is kind of like people have to make the time to kind of connect, reconnect, and all of that. So and study shows, as you would know, connecting with people is such of a beautiful thing. It's good. It's such of a good thing, right? And that's one of the reasons I always encourage people to start there, because if you're especially people who don't have anybody to connect with and so forth, that can be harder and so forth. But if you have people, you have family, you have friends and so forth, it's nice to make a little bit of an effort, right?
Yep.
Which can be hard too, because sometimes when people have not connected in years, then that can be an issue, because when you reconnect, sometimes you get into conversation as to, who fault was it, of not connecting all of these years and so forth. But so important. Life is short. Embrace every moment. I really like that for sure. That's for sure. This is your show, but I wanted to kind of reflect back based on what you've said there, because you've really given us some really good pointers, good things to kind of think of, and that really highlights, when you think about it, it really highlights not only the knowledge that you have, it will also basically showcase the individual who you are. I think you've kind of nailed it as you were responding, because at the end of the day, as human beings, we have the tendency, right, to kind of showcase ourselves to be a person that we are not, and so forth. We see these things happen. But your message, and I have to support you in this one. You really have to be true to yourself. That's a good place to start. I always say to people, even in therapy sessions and so forth, like you want to focus on you, focus on you first, because at the end of the day, nobody can feed off an empty bucket too, right? Like, don't
Yeah.
worry about this person, don't worry about that person. When you are good and all of that and ready to go, that's when you can start to, do different things and so forth. So really, really good pointer. Do know that your response, your time, is very much appreciated here. I know you're taking away time from your family. Now I'm connecting the dots here, from your wife and your daughter and so forth, to be here. But do know that the impact, your response will have, will overweigh all of that. Not saying that your family is not,
Yeah.
is not valued in any shape or form, but sometimes we have to also sacrifice, and you've demonstrated that here, which I appreciate. I myself, I've sacrificed the time to kind of do this as well too, because I have other professional jobs that I do,
Yeah.
but I also like the idea of to share back knowledge, and I realize that I cannot do it on my own, and that's one of the reasons I select guests to be on here, and that's one reason we've reached out to you. So I personally like to thank you. I hope that you reach out when needed as well too. You are now officially part of what we do. It's not like you weren't, but you're you're closer to that circle and so forth. But do know we forever are grateful for you. I'm now giving you the opportunity to say any last minute things you'd like to say, maybe things you would have liked to say, but I didn't ask you and whatnot. Take the time to do so, then we will wrap it up. So you can spend time with your family.
Alrighty. Thank you, brother. So, in closing, I'm just gonna say that through my response, if I've offended anyone who've been looking on our program, I do apologize for that. It doesn't mean that I've said it to offend anyone, but and if I've inspired anyone, then that is not me. It is through the grace of my Gurudev, my Sadguru, who has guided me to do so. Um, with that being said, I want each and every one to know that you are special. You are not lesser than anybody. You are special. Know that. Love yourself, treat yourself, and try your utmost to make yourself a better version of yourself. But it all starts with you loving yourself and accepting you for who you are. Never try to put yourself in such a way that you are always running a race against anyone else. Because if you see life in such a way, then you are moving away from who and who you are. Again, love yourself. And with you loving yourself, you will love each and every one that you come into contact with, because you experience what love is. So you will want to share that love with everyone.
All right. So, my dear fellow listeners and viewers, as we are officially approaching the end of our program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to the Dr. Narine Dat Show. On behalf of myself and our guest, Panidev, both of us would like to join together and wish you a great today and even a better tomorrow. We'll see you soon.